Hi. It's great to see familiar faces, new faces. I always think positive when I see Y shaped pieces of wood. So when you said that, I was like, I didn't know anyone else did that, and it was my sign that it's okay that I'm up here speaking after you. Because I think we all, no matter what we've emerged into, whatever chapter we're leading in our lives, we have that question of, are we broken or are we whole? Are we enough? Could we be more? So yes, I accept your request to step into the rest of this evening, as we are all whole. We are all meant to be here. We all have our story. I have been very captivated by this emerging concept since I was invited to speak, and this image of emerging. Last summer, I was with a friend of mine celebrating her daughter's 8th birthday, and I had a present for her daughter. And her daughter is one of those very magical, earthy girls who likes all of life, like birth and death and everything in between. So I brought to her a butterfly habitat. You can get those like butterfly things where you can see the whole process, caterpillar, cocoon, the whole thing. And so she unwrapped it, and my friend Jennifer said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you got her that." And I was like, okay, it was just a coincidence. And she said, no, she had one. She just used it. We just released all the butterflies. And the thing I didn't realize is that when caterpillars turn into butterflies, it's disgusting. Like the whole thing is covered with goo and guts, and it's gross. She said, and everywhere on like this toy, this butterfly habitat, it says you can just keep using this. And she's like, and I didn't want to clean it. And she wants to do it again, so the fact that she has a new one is awesome. So when I was thinking about emerging, I was thinking about a couple things. One, it's not ever done, so we're always emerging. Like even in your awesome story, there is no other word. After Finn was brought into the world, you are emerging towards something else, around that corner. So we're always emerging, and this process of emerging sometimes really does empty us out. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's fearful, sometimes it's dark, and sometimes it is exalted and light and beautiful. So what I really want to talk about is how we can lead lives. When we talk about leadership and the kind of leadership development that we do at Tierra, I want to talk about what that means in terms of how you lead your life through the emerging process, so that at the end of it, you feel like you have lived each moment from that place of consciousness. What you have created, whether it's a bowl of soup or a global company, feels like it reflects you and how you do that. So I'm going to do that just by sharing a couple of moments from my life, which is funny, I have to say, because usually what I do is I facilitate you telling your story, which is what I really want to do right now, but I won't. Instead, I will tell my story and just see what happens, okay? So the first moment that I'm going to go back, I'm going to start back. So picture me as 7, like I'm 7 or 8, so 2nd grade, right? And my feet are planted, shoulders back, and what I'm doing is I'm belting out prayers in church really loudly, like at the top of my lungs, like the Apostles' Creed, the Hail Mary, like the whole thing, like really loud. Because for my first communion, my grandma Beauchesne had given me a book of saints, and I had decided that what I wanted to be when I grew up was a saint. Like that seemed the thing to do. But the thing that had drawn me in was just the pictures and the stories of these women who had given all for something that they believed in that was bigger than them, right? I know now that that was the thing that like sucked me in. But the other thing that I thought was so funny was that I had a plan. Like I had a 2-part strategy at 8 years old of like how to become a saint. The first part was say prayers really loud. Because I thought God or the priest or somebody would notice, and I would be asked to perform. I don't know, something. The other thing was I decided I would become the first woman priest. Because somehow at 8 years old, I knew that women not being on the stage or in the leadership role or on the altar, that was missing. And that if someone fixed that or could be that or could put it back, that would make a difference. and a difference in a way that was pretty powerful and pretty needed. So I share that story because I didn't have any of this language for that when I was 8. But if you look at how my life has evolved choice by choice, all of that is still present in what I call kind of the inner fire. So that inner source. So you talk about how women do have this conversation about, well, what can I do to feel that passion? And sometimes we relate to that like it's outside of us, or if we made the right career choice, or visited the right country, or did something outside of us, that then we would get that spark. But that spark is actually kind of there all the time. Like it's simmering inside of you all the time. And there are clues in those things that we did love to do, that we did want to do, that we noticed even when we were 7 or 8. So now, here's another moment. Okay, so now I'm 16, right? And I am sitting at an intersection at a stoplight in a 1978 Honda Civic. And I am looking out of my window. I can see a high school, and it will be the 5th school that I will be going to in a period of 5 years. So I went to 7 different schools between 7th and 12th grade, just kind of by accident. So this is one of those things that could make you feel broken, but actually in that moment, there's something that happened that actually has informed everything I've done since that moment. So in that, what I was doing there at that stoplight was this. It was summer, it was August. I'd never been in the school. I didn't know where the gym was. I'd never met the volleyball teacher. But I had read in the paper the volleyball tryouts were that day. So when you go to 5 different schools, you have to like retry everything all the time, like every time you go to a new one, right? And it's tiring and it's scary. So when I was sitting in that car, I was very aware that I was petrified. Like I was really nervous. I was by myself, and I knew that I had some choices though. So this is the thing. Like in that moment, I knew I had 3 choices. One was go back home and admit that I couldn't do it, that I was too scared and too tired. But I didn't want to do it again. The other was go in and just see what happened. Like figure it out one more time. The third one, which is the one that I really wanted to do, was I wanted to drive around for 2 hours and then go home and say I didn't make the team. Like that's what I really, like my 16-year-old self, like actually was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. But the thing that's interesting is I didn't do that. And somehow in that moment, what I really realized is that leading your life takes, in every moment, not necessarily not being afraid, because there's no way I couldn't be afraid in that moment. But what it does take is it takes going like, who do I want to be? Like, who do I want to be? And what direction did I say I want to go? So, given the fact that I want to be confident and I wanted to be a volleyball player, I went in and I tried it, and it ended up being a very good decision. I ended up making the team and all went down that path, which was great. But the thing that was more important was this understanding that in every moment, even the small ones, the ones of awe and the ones that are really small, we have this ability to stop, really take in what is everything I'm feeling, tired, scared, mad that I have to do this again, excited, curious, whatever. Okay, I can feel it all, because that's part of every moment, and that is one of our superpowers as women. And then in the presence of feeling it all, I get to balance what would feel the best and what direction do I say I want my life to go, what do I want to be known for? And then let that guide us our choices. And when we do that, like I knew when I did that in that moment, that it really wouldn't feel good for very long to drive around for 2 hours and then go home and just not even have the truth to tell. I knew that I had to do it differently than that. And that worked for me, like that strategy. I went to a college, I didn't know what I wanted to do for 2.5 years, and I ended up with a degree in philosophy, French, and women's studies. To which my dad said, are you seriously going to find a job in philosophy? And my dad is very generous and supportive, so that was something. And I'm like, I really have no idea. But it was following just classes that I loved to take, the direction I wanted to go. And then the thing that is very crazy about that is that last month, for work with Tiara, who teaches women everywhere to lead their lives from this inner power, to lead others from that same place of consciousness when they do get in those roles of power, we were hosting a women's leadership development retreat in the south of France, talking about how to live your life powerfully. which is a wonderful manifestation of a degree that made no sense in 1993, and I never could have predicted, right? But you can't predict that. You just have to take the next step, and I couldn't explain it. So as women, we have to stop trying to explain ourselves to a certain degree. We have to have the courage to take the step toward where we know we want to go, both who we want to be, the direction we want to go, what we stand for. And we have to keep that inner spark that's only ours burning. My 20s were not that great, to be honest. I did not pay attention to any of that advice for a decade. And I got married and divorced, and a lot of things happened that were indicating that I didn't. But the thing that there was another piece that kind of came back to me at the end of my 20s then that rounded this out, as far as what we know, what we believe, what we stand for. And that was, not only was I not following my advice about my instinct, because I was trying to work a career and move to Chicago and do stuff the way I was supposed to, and make a philosophy degree, something corporate and interesting. The other thing that I was missing during that decade was community, the intimacy, and the tribe. So, after my divorce, at the end of my 20s, I was faced with another one of those conundrums. I got an invitation to meet college girlfriends back on a weekend retreat, and I had ignored everybody for like a decade. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm invited. Secondly, I don't know if I really should go or not go, and I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. But what I did, again, with my fear, like arm in arm, not fear or something else, just my fear and my love and my commitment and my passion, I drove and I showed up and I created a tribe of women from college that still support each other every year in terms of who we are, where we're going next, through births, through deaths, through everything in between. And when that tribe was in place, and then my family tribe, and then my Tierra business tribe, that's when everything really started to click. Because the thing that you need when you're emerging like that cycle is you need people. And you need people who can see you for who you are, even when you can't see yourself. And you need people to be able to just show up by your side when you don't need someone by your side. You need people that you need, yes. You need people to show up by your side when you don't even know that you need people by your side. You need people that you can ask for help, and you can ask for specific things when you don't need, without fear, without apologizing, without explaining for yourself. So the things that I leave you with really are those components, that to lead your life powerfully, so being a leader in your life, which will then have you in the place where you're leading others, whether it's by choice or by accident, just because of who you are. You need that inner fire. You need to understand that each moment you get to choose, and you get to choose based on who you want to be and the direction you put on the horizon, and let it unfold from there, unapologetic, not explaining yourself, but with everything that you know. And then you need your people around you to celebrate and pop champagne at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and to also be by your side when someone's hurting and suffering. And if you have that, what you have is you have feminine power emerging, evolving, leading the world. So thank you.